Hi guys, this is R.A. Sweeney again, coming to share another prayer with you from the book Prayers from the Time of Jesus. We started in the last video talking about the meals that surround prayers, so there's the one before, and now we're going to talk about the prayer that was traditionally prayed after a meal, and so this is called the Birkat Hamazon. And so this, I mentioned before meals, you typically had several different prayers to choose from depending on exactly what it was that you were eating or drinking or something like that. This is not the case afterwards. So this is the prayer that would be prayed after you were eating or drinking or anything like that, typically around meals, not just like a drink of water or something like that necessarily. But this would be prayed after mealtime, and it's the Birkat Hamazon. So in Hebrew, it would be Baruch atah Yahweh Eloheinu melech haolam, Hazan et haolam kulo butuvo, bechen bechesed uvrachamim, hu noten lechem lechal basar, ki leolam chasto, uvtuvo hagadol tamid lo chaser lanu, ve'al yechsar lanu mazon laolam ve'ed. Ba'avur shemo hagdol. Kihu el zan parnes lachol, umetiv lachol, umechil mazon, lekal beriote asher bara. Baruch atah Yahweh, chazan et chachol. And so it translates pretty much to, Blessed are you, Lord our God, King of all creation. And then this first word, chazan, fattens, is what it really translates to. I really embellished that based on some ideas from Isaiah that I think really tie in with this. And what you see, really not just in Isaiah, but throughout Scripture, is this idea that God wants to provide abundance. He wants to provide feasting, and He wants all creation to come together at these celebrations of life where He's just providing this abundance. And so this prayer uses the idea of fattening, and in our culture, isn't necessarily the best thing. And so that's why I felt like I really needed to translate it, because if I said, well, he fattens people, that doesn't sound positive, and it really doesn't communicate that idea. So I translated it about him preparing a feast for all creation. But really, it says it fattens all creation, but that's just providing that abundance and so much more than you possibly even need, is the idea that's going on there. And so he's fattening all creation with his goodness. And so then he's doing that with three things there. And I kind of paraphrase because they sound very similar. So bechen, bechesed, uvrachamim. And I usually translate those three things as generous love, loyal love, and nurturing love. In the prayer, since I had love, 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 I just kind of took that separate and said because of his love, which is those three things, but is actually describing three kinds of love. So you've got a generous love, which often gets translated as like grace or favor, but it's a love that wants to bestow on others. It's a love that delights in taking care, well, maybe not taking care of, but a love that delights in just showing that generosity to others because you delight in that other thing. Then there's chesed, which I translate as loyal love, because it's the love that I always reference back to movies. There's always that trope you see in movies and things like that, where maybe like two people are best friends, and one of the best friends dies and leaves a kid behind. And because the other best friend loved his deceased friend so much, that kid, no matter what they do, that's like the extension of the person that I loved. So I'm gonna love them too. So it's not even really a love that's merited by the recipient of the love. It's a love that you get to receive because you're associated with the one that I love, or even a love that, like, I've made a commitment to love you, whether it's marriage, whether it's taking care of a child, or whatever the case may be. It's I've committed to this type of love, and so it's unconditional. It doesn't matter what you do. I've made a commitment to this, and even if you cease to merit it, I will not cease to give it. And so I love the idea of chesed. It's very, very, very prevalent in Ruth, where Ruth shows chesed to Naomi, and then Boaz sees the way that Ruth treats Naomi, and because he has chesed for his family where Naomi's from, he decides, I am going to show chesed to Ruth because of who she is and how she's taking care of my family. Then the last one is nurturing love, or chamim, which is nurturing love. I also sometimes, I stole the idea from Dr. Carissa Quinn, she'll translate this as womminess, because racham is really close to rakam, which is womb, and it really describes like the love that a mother has for like a nursing child, just that tender, protective, all-encompassing, like nurturing love. In Isaiah, God's talking about the destruction that's going to come on his people, and he says, "But like, don't think that I've forgotten about you or that I'm going to stop loving you." He says, "Can a nursing mom forget the rachamim that she has for her child?" And he's like, "But even if she does, if that happens, where a mom ceases to show this nurturing love to her child, which unfortunately we know happened in Jerusalem when it was being destroyed," he says, "Even if that happens, though, I won't." Like it's so hard for a mom to not love her child in that way, but even if that happens, like my nurturing love is so much greater that I won't, even if things get that bad. Um, then we've talked about this idea of lachem being bread, but it can also just be, your general food. So it's, your rice and your beans and things like that. It's just like basic food. And so he provides at least the basic food for everything that is made of flesh. There's a lot of celebration of abundance in this prayer and in other prayers, but he at least provides the bare minimum for all flesh to that vanishing point that we talked in the last video. So to the ends of all creation, whether it's space or time, he has that because he's loyal to his creation. He has that loyal love over his creation. Um, and then it actually translate to his goodness of mightiness, is how I'd translate it, but it's his mighty goodness. Because of that mighty goodness, scarcity's not come upon us. And so I really liked the way that this prayer goes back and forth between the ideas of scarcity and abundance, and that's such a common image through all the Bible. But I think back to Genesis. You had how I translate it is uninhabitable and uninhabited, but often it's formless and void or wild and waste. So you had this creation that just didn't have the ability to support life, and so life wasn't thriving. And by the end, we've got this garden that is filled with everything. You've got Cain and Abel come with their sacrifices, and when God looks with favor upon Abel's, Cain is like, "Well, what? That's not cool. Why don't I get blessing?" And God's response to him was, "There's blessing enough for everyone. There's so much blessing if you do what is good." And you just keep seeing that idea of people thinking there's only so much, so I need to fight and I need to scrap and I need to take so that I'm not the one in scarcity because there's not abundance. But God keeps saying, like, no, there's abundance for everything. I have such abundance. If you will just trust me and do good, there's abundance for you. Um, so it's saying that scarcity's never come to us, and it's never going to. So it's looking back to that past and saying we've never been in this situation where God hasn't taken care of us with His abundance, and we know that that's not going to happen because His name has such abundance. Um, then he is God, the nourisher and the one who sustains all. So he's providing all that food, but it's not just filling up with like candy or something like that, like a little kid's chosen diet. This is like he's providing what we need, not necessarily what we want, but he's providing those things, and he's actually growing us in it. He's keeping us healthy and alive, and all those things that go along with nourishing and sustaining. And the one who does good to all, and just having that food ready for all. Um, and so it's for all his creations, which we tend to think we focus so heavily on humanity, and humanity is a huge piece, really at not quite the core of the gospel message, but pretty close to the core there. But really, God's love is for all of creation. That's what you see in the flood. God says, like, humans are ruining my creation. I need to rescue creation from humanity. And you see that in several other places throughout the Bible. And so he's providing the nourishing, sustaining, the goodness, the sustenance. He provides, prepares, sustains all of those things for all of his creation because he has that loyal love for all creation. Um, and so that's how the prayer kind of goes through in English, rather than trying to read it because it's very broken English to direct translate it. I figured I'd just talk through the prayer. But in English, it would be something along the lines of, "Blessed are you, Lord our God, King of creation, fattens to creation his all in his goodness, in generous love, in loyal love, and in nurturing love. He gives bread to all flesh, for to the vanishing point his loyal love, and in his mighty goodness continually not scarcity to us, and not will scarcity to us food, to the vanishing point and to the end, in the abundance of his name mighty. For he is God, nourisher, and who sustains to all, and who goods to all, and prepares food to all his creations, which he gave purpose to. Blessed are you, Lord, the fattener to the all." But again, it's really just the celebration of, like, we always tend to think that we're gonna live in scarcity, but we've never been in scarcity. God's always provided what we needed, so we can trust that He will, and it's gonna be not just those basics. It's gonna be this abundance that He wants, life and thriving and fattening and just overabundance for all of His creation that loves Him. Um, so that's the prayer, and then I coupled it with the idea from Psalms, because there was a couple words in there that I really liked. It says that he opens his hands. He's giving with open hands. He's heaping and just like tossing, like, here, have more and more and more good and blessing. And so it's that open-handed giving idea. I loved that because it's just the huge amount of generosity that he has. And then the idea of sating all of creation's needed, satisfying, bringing to satisfaction. So it's he's giving with both hands, just this generous amount of giving to not just keep people from dying, but like to bring to the point of being sated and satisfied and not even desiring or needing more. So I loved the way that psalm fit in with the ideas here. It's not quoting necessarily in this prayer that idea from the psalm, but it definitely the idea follows pretty well, even if the language isn't directly quoted. So that is the prayer for after meals, the Birkat Hamazon, and that brings us to the end of our two chunks that surround meals. So hopefully these were a blessing for you. I hope you get a chance to try them out with your meal times, hopefully with family and friends. And stay tuned, and we will move on to the next prayers in the next video. Thanks, guys. Hope you were blessed, and we will see you on the next one. Thanks.